Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are driving through Hope Pastures. Now Hope Pastures was built back in the 1960s. It's a residential community. But one thing that stood out when Hope Pastures was built is that the electricity cables were put on the ground. You didn't have them running on the poles along the side of the road. And that was very significant at the time. And this was the first community in Jamaica, residential community, to do this. However, over time, JPS, the Jamaica Public Service Company, relocated the cables from underground and put them on the poles that you see up ahead. So today we're going to go through and discuss what happened, why JPS did that. Now, when we make these videos, a lot of people comment that why do they have these cables running above ground? So guys, I want to ask you a question. Where you live, do you have the cables above ground or underground? Especially those in first world countries. I'm very curious to find out how it is. So in Jamaica now, the JPS, Jamaica Public Service Company, and the residents of Hope Pastures actually went to court over this issue of the cables. So the cables were put on the ground, but JPS said they cannot maintain them on the ground. It's too expensive. So they said that they were going to relocate them to the poles above the ground. And the residents said no, they didn't want that. The community was built with the cables on the ground. So it ended up in court. So we're going to go through an article that gives more information on what happened and the rulings of the different courts. Hope Pastures, a residential community in St. Andrew, Jamaica, was developed in the early 1960s with an underground electrical distribution system. A unique feature at that time. Over the decades, this system aged, leading to maintenance challenges and discussions about its viability. In 2014, the Jamaica Public Service Company, the nation's primary electricity provider, proposed transitioning from the deteriorating underground cables to an overhead distribution system, citing difficulties in maintaining the aging infrastructure. Some residents opposed this, leading to legal action. In May 2018, the Supreme Court ruled that JPS was not legally obligated to maintain the underground system and could implement overhead lines. The residents appealed, and in 2020, the Court of Appeal determined that JPS had a statutory duty to maintain the underground supply. However, the court also acknowledged concerns about the system's safety and reliability, suggesting that the issues required further examination. In 2022, the Supreme Court revisited the case and concluded that while JPS has a statutory obligation to provide electricity, it was not required to maintain the underground system at its own expense. The court noted that the underground infrastructure was no longer viable and that residents desiring its replacement would need to cover the associated costs. As early as 2025, the situation remains complex. Energy and Telecommunications Minister Darrell Vaz has expressed openness to discussions about the feasibility and cost of underground power lines, especially in light of recent damages to overhead infrastructure caused by natural disasters. This indicates a potential shift in policy considerations, balancing the high cost of underground systems against their resilience benefits. The Hope Pastures case underscores the broader challenges of maintaining aging infrastructure and the financial implications of modernizing utility services. Alright guys, so that's the end of the update article. So there was a time when these cables were put underground for residential communities, but it went to court, and the last ruling was in 2022, no, in 2025, the city of, Okay, in 2022, the court noted that the underground infrastructure was no longer viable and that residents desiring its replacement would need to cover the associated costs. So if you want the electricity wires run underground, you would have to pay for it, not JPS. So that's why the electricity cables are above ground in Jamaica in the residential areas. Alright, guys, let us know what you think. Leave your comments in the section below. And also, tell us where the cables are run in the country where you live. Leave a comment in the section below. Alright, guys, have a good day.